Welcome to Loving Life, a guide to a positive mindset. I'm your host, Lisa. I'm a mindset and energy coach, and each week you'll discover mindset shifts, energy practices, and real life tools to help you feel more confident, calm, and in flow, because you deserve to love the life you're creating. I'm so glad you're here with me. Let's get going on today's episode. If you've been putting things off lately and finding it hard to make decisions, you are not lazy, you're not slow, you are simply reflecting the energy of this time of year. Welcome back to Loving Life. Now, this week, what I want to talk about, which is procrastination, it moves on very nicely from the episode I shared last week, which was an old episode, which, how funny, by the way, how funny that I recorded that 2 years ago, the last time we went to Abu Dhabi, and then I shared it again 2 years later when we were in Abu Dhabi again. How funny. Anyway, we're now back and we had an amazing time. We were in one day, I think the day of the Formula One, it was 30 degrees. Now, that was so hot compared to what we have over here at the moment. It was so weird. And it's been really weird coming back, actually, because even though we were only there for 4 days, we've basically just come back from what feels like summer. And we've come back to the beginning of December. Well, we're not even the beginning of December anymore, are we? It's the 11th of December today as I'm recording this. So it just doesn't, for me, it didn't feel Christmassy. When I walked off the plane, when we were on our way home, even the following day, I'm like, it's Christmas. Everyone's got their Christmas lights up. But for me, it doesn't feel Christmassy. So I've been playing loads of Christmas music in the car. And yeah, I finished off my Christmas front door display, which I will share. But yeah, I love it. I am slowly getting back to feeling like it's almost Christmas. Now, last week, I didn't notice a particular spike in one area in terms of downloads, but the top places for downloads was kind of spread nicely throughout a few different places, actually. So we had Lambeth, which I think is London, Sydney, Nottingham, Louisville in Kentucky, and Glasgow. So if you're from any of those places, hi, thank you for listening last week, and I hope you're here again this week. Now, if you are in Norway, then I would love to ask you to share this podcast with everybody you know, because last week I was, number 100 and something in the charts in Norway. So please, let's get this podcast higher. Let's spread the positivity and the love. In fact, wherever you are, I would be so grateful if you could share, especially with what we're going to talk about today. This subject affects so many women, and I know it does because the amount of people that I work with on procrastination is huge. It's something that at some point affects us all for different reasons, but at this time of year, it's particularly difficult to stay focused because there is so much that needs doing, or we think there is so much that needs doing. And the thing is, as I talked about last week, at this time of year, we should be slowing down. But we are doing the exact opposite of that. We are rushing around Christmas shopping, getting ready to make Christmas special for everybody we love. We're doing the complete opposite to what nature intended. Our to-do lists get bigger and bigger because not only have we got all of the Christmas planning to do, we've got social events thrown into that. I mean, I don't actually have any social events, which is quite sad. Because I work by myself, I have no Christmas party, but I'm sure many of you listening will have Christmas parties with work and with clients and things like that. So there's more that we've got to cram in socially than we would do normally. If you're a parent, then you've got school things to account for as well, like nativity plays or whatever they do at your school. And then, of course, especially if you're in the corporate world, then you've got end of year work deadlines before you go on that break over Christmas. If you have a break, hopefully you do. So yeah, it is a particularly busy time of year and we are working against nature. So of course that's going to have an effect on our nervous system. And I think sometimes we get drawn into believing that we are procrastinators, like that is just part of our personality. It's not. It's not. Like, we don't have to procrastinate. We just do because we put so much on our plate. But procrastination is not a personality trait, whatever you believe, whatever you think. Procrastination tends to show up when we are feeling overworked, overwhelmed, and it can often make us feel frozen, which is obviously why we procrastinate. We put things off. Your brain says, oh my God, I've got so much to do. Let's do nothing, which makes you feel lazy, but you're not lazy. It is survival. So there tend to be like 3 P's of procrastination. You've got pressure. So whether that's internal or external pressure, you might not necessarily have people putting pressure on you. You might not necessarily have that work pressure, but we put pressure on ourselves to do everything, to have everything done by a certain time. And I don't know about you, but actually I always have, and this is a perfect example of procrastination. I get so overwhelmed by how much there is to do, and I end up rushing around doing so much on Christmas Eve that because I've procrastinated and left everything to the last minute, and then I don't get to enjoy Christmas Eve. Like when I hear of other people, going for long walks and, doing nice family things on Christmas Eve, I always feel really jealous because I'm like, why does it feel like I'm the only one rushing around doing everything on Christmas Eve? I'm probably not. But we put so much pressure on ourselves to do everything and to make everything amazing for everybody. And that leads me nicely onto the next P, actually, which is perfectionism. So we have an image in our mind and we want everything to be perfect. But the thing is, in reality, nobody remembers how perfect Christmas was. Even we don't. We remember the times we shared with people. We remember how those times made us feel. We also remember how it feels if we are particularly stressed and overloaded. So let's not put that perfectionism on ourselves because in reality, it doesn't matter. Let's remember how we felt instead of trying to make everything perfect. And then the 3rd P is priority overload. Like everything feels like a priority. You've got a to-do list and trying to figure out which one of those is the priority feels impossible because it feels like everything is really important. And of course, this then leads to procrastination because you feel like you've got so much on your plate. Then you combine that with low energy because of the season that we're in. We're naturally meant to be slowing down, and emotional fatigue, if you will, where we've put so much of that pressure on ourselves. So let's just take a look at those things in a little bit more detail. The invisible load that women carry when it comes to arranging things for Christmas and holidays in general, it always falls on the woman. So I don't want to stereotype, and because I know of men who take control of the kitchen for Christmas. So they would hopefully think about what needs cooking on Christmas Day, what needs buying. That doesn't happen in my house. Which I'm glad about, to be honest. I like doing the cooking, but I also like to moan about it as well, if I'm honest. That is a perfect example of the invisible load, the invisible pressure that we put out on ourselves. I do that myself. Then you've got like gift buying. Again, this always tends to fall on the woman, on the female of the relationship. Maybe you're not in a relationship, so obviously you have to do all of this by yourself anyway. But you want to buy the best gift for somebody. We put so much pressure on ourselves around people pleasing, making sure that we are remembered for the amazing gifts we bought people. Like, don't get me wrong, no one wants a shit Christmas present, but do we overthink it? probably you also have the expectations around hosting or organising where you're going. Then let's throw family dynamics into the mix. This is my bugbear. We tend to spend Christmas here at our house. My parents always come round because they only live around the corner. They bring my nan, and we tend to see my in-laws then on Boxing Day, and that just works nicely. Like, we kind of have fallen into that now, so everybody just knows what we're doing. But the pressure you feel, God, I'm using that word a lot today, aren't I? Pressure. But the pressure you feel to try and please everybody, to make sure that we're spreading our time evenly. And don't get me wrong, like, there is part of me that feels guilty that my family come round here every Christmas and that we don't spend Christmas Day with my in-laws. But that's not something I'm going to get into today. But again, that guilt that you feel around things like that, like, that is people pleasing. With Christmas, you have the extra financial pressure. Like, we get paid the same, but that has to spread throughout the extra things that we buy for Christmas, like Christmas gifts. And of course, we want to make it magical, not just for our children, but for us as well and our family members. But what happens when you need rest? We feel guilty. We tend to have like those couple of days after Christmas where no one does anything, after like Boxing Day and New Year. And that's all we give ourselves for resting. That's not enough. But with all these things to think about, you have got no space to think clearly. So because of that, your brain delays making decisions, which only leads to extra pressure. So how do we break that cycle? How do we break that pressure that we put on ourselves? So when everything feels too much, when it feels like you've got so much to do, I want you to think about what is the next step. Not think of what is the end result or the whole step, but what would it feel like, or what would make this task that I have to do feel 10% lighter. So by just focusing on the next thing you have to do rather than the end result, then that just takes that little bit of pressure off. And then we worry about the next step after that, okay? So, and this is one thing, actually, at this point, I'm just going to mention my morning gratitude journal, because this is something I think I've designed really well in my morning gratitude journal. So for each day, I write down everything that is clogging up my mind. I call it a brain dump. So rather than calling it a to-do list, because I don't want to make myself feel that I have to do everything on it. So write down everything that is clogging up your brain, everything that you feel like you have to do. Write it all down, and then we choose one thing that you make your priority for that day. Anything else you get done is a bonus. But just by writing down your brain dump, you've freed up space in your mind, rather than thinking, oh, well, on Wednesday I have to do this and on Friday I have to do that. Just write it all down. Doesn't matter when you have to do it. Whatever it is that is clogging up that space, write it down and then choose your one priority. And then the next thing I want you to do to help reduce this procrastination and overwhelm is to make decisions based on your energy, not the calendar, which I know is easier said than done, but you have to listen to your body and your mind. So let's just go back to the time of year, hibernation, like nature is going into hibernation. The trees have pretty much dropped all their leaves now. So that is us, okay? So some days we are this bare tree energy where we've had to shed everything so as we can just survive. But then there will be other days when we have winter sun energy. So that is when I want you to use that energy and to give yourself clarity, to give yourself that day to be productive. Don't try and be productive on a bare tree energy day. Save that for a winter sun energy. And of course, being women, we have our own cycle to bring into the mix there as well. So you know your own energy. You have to work with that. Don't give yourself too much to do when you are running on the bare minimum. Just make that simple decision for yourself now. Another thing we can do to help with this procrastination and overwhelm. So I've got a couple of suggestions, okay? So one thing would be just a 2-minute breath reset. And you can do this multiple times a day. But just concentrate on your breathing for 2 minutes at a time. Just set everything else aside. But as you take in one deep breath in for 5 and out for 5. Obviously, you should be able to do that's 10 seconds. You should be able to do that 6 times in a minute. So by the time you've done 12 breaths, you've had your 2-minute breath reset, and you will be amazed at how much that resets your nervous system. So another little reset that you can use to ground your energy is just write one line in a journal. How are you feeling right now? Start off with one line, and you'd often be amazed at how much actually comes out. Another thing you can do is a quick body scan. So I start off all my meditations doing this. Start off at the crown, move down to your forehead, soften your eyeballs and your eyelids, soften your cheekbones, unclench your jaw, soften your shoulders, let them drop away from your ears. Move down to your heart space and allow it to open. Move down to your solar plexus just above your tummy button and let that all the muscles in that area relax. And then down to your hips, down to the tops of your legs, down to your knees and your ankles, and then finally your toes. And you will be amazed at just how doing that little scan again resets your nervous system. It's just a little reset, and that's often what we are looking for. These are just really super quick ways to bring ourselves back. And then, like, one of my favorite things to do, which I always get clients to do, is put your right hand on your heart and close your eyes. Just ask, what do I need? What does my body need right now? And if you're not sure, if nothing comes up for you, then ask yourself, where in my body am I feeling this overwhelm? And then sometimes it's easier to connect with that part of the body and say, what does that, so say it's your hips, what do my hips need right now? And you'll be amazed at the sometimes random answers that come up, but listen to it, because that is your intuition. That is your inner knowing telling you what you need. Listen to it. And actually, another thing we can do whilst we are talking about that is seeing procrastination as communication. So, like I just said, notice where you're feeling it. And if this procrastination, if this overwhelm, if it could speak, what would it say I need? And notice what comes up. So, is it clarity? Is it boundaries? Is it more support? Is it rest? Or is it a simpler plan? Do we need to bring things back to the bare minimum? Like, just because the world speeds up at Christmas doesn't mean that you have to. Your family, your friends, your children, your partner, they will all be better off if you are present and bring your beautiful, calm energy rather than this often frantic, chaotic energy that comes with overwhelm and procrastination at this time of year. So that actually brings me really nicely to invite you to the group session on the 20th of December called Reignite Your Spark. And I think this is the perfect time to do this session. 5 days before Christmas, just where we are probably going to be feeling that overwhelm, that procrastination. But this session is going to focus on everything that your sacral needs. So we're going to be looking at pleasure. So what brings you pleasure over this time of year? We're going to be looking at creativity. We're going to look to bring some emotional regulation, much needed emotional regulation, and reconnecting with fun, because that is what it's all about. I'm sure you'll agree. It's all too easy to allow ourselves to burn out over the festive period. So this is just an hour to allow you to reset that energy with support and connecting with other people. So I'll pop the link, if you want to book onto that, I'll pop the link in the show notes. That's going to be held on Zoom, like I said, on the 20th of December at 3 p.m. UK time. And you do get to keep access of the recorded version of that as well. So if you don't manage to make it at 3 p.m. on that date, then you will have the recorded version as well. Okay, I really do hope that this episode has resonated and helped somewhat. I hope it's helped give you some ideas of how we can just reduce or avoid that procrastination by reducing overwhelm. And I'll also pop the link to my journal in the show notes as well. The journal, I will say, is very well designed. I designed it for myself because I do really procrastinate. I know I was saying earlier it doesn't have to be a personality trait, but one of my personality traits. No, that's not true. I just tend to procrastinate a lot. And I do find that by using that journal every day, like there's space for gratitude, there is space for designing how we want the energy for that day to look like. I just find that reduces overwhelm. It reduces procrastination. So if you can think of somebody or for yourself or for a gift, then I'll pop the link to that in the show notes. If you are in the US or if you're not in the UK, basically, use the Amazon link. Make sure you share this episode with anybody you think will benefit from it. And I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could take a moment to subscribe, rate, and if you're listening on Apple, as 95% of you do, review. It really helps the podcast reach more people who are ready to shift their mindset and raise their vibration. And if you know someone who would benefit from today's episode, feel free to share it with them. Until next time, keep loving life and know that I'm sending you so much love.